Again, thank you for coming. This is our 8th annual Community Forum on Race, 8th annual. So we will get started with our welcome from Mr. Brian Severson Hall from Osseo Schools.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you. My name is Brian Severson Hall. I'm the Community Education Director for Osseo Area Schools and a member of the Community Forum on Race Planning Committee. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 8th Annual Community Forum on Race. Thank you for being here. And again, a special welcome to first timers, absolutely. Before we begin, let us first acknowledge that we gather on the original homelands of the Dakota people who were forcibly removed from and are still connected to this territory. We honor with gratitude the land and our stewardship of it. This year's event is sponsored by the City of Brooklyn Park, City of Maple Grove, Northwest Suburban Integration School District, North Hennepin Community College, Community Mediation and Restorative Services, and Osseo Area Schools. Thank you to our sponsors and everyone on the planning team for your work in pulling this event together. It's wonderful seeing everyone on screen, including community members, elected officials, administrators, students, and community leaders. I know some folks were unable to attend because of other city meetings or other conflicts, and some of those folks send their welcome as well, and their spirit is here with us. The concept for a community forum on race was started a little over 8 years ago with the idea of gathering community members in the Northwest suburban area of the Twin Cities to engage in focused conversations around race. Our mission of gathering annually to give people the space to talk about race, speak their truth, meet other community members, build our skills to better engage in conversations about race, and have our voices heard has held true for these past 8 years. And we didn't let the pandemic stop us from convening. In fact, tonight is the second time we're holding this event virtually. We love being together face to face, but we're grateful that we continue to have these conversations virtually. So thank you to our team members in the background who are making everything work technically. And thank you for everyone for your patience if there are ever any glitches tonight. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that tonight's gathering comes at a milestone time in our local community. Just 2 Sundays ago, the killing of Dante Wright in Brooklyn Center led to over a week of protests and demand for social justice, as well as an amazing coming together of multiple groups and individuals to support the community of Brooklyn Center. In fact, Dante's memorial service was held just a few hours ago today. Say his name, Dante Wright. On Monday, students in our community exercised their First Amendment rights and joined a statewide walkout. Our scholars were civically engaged and used their voices to affect change. Our youth continue to inspire us with their example of engagement. And on Tuesday this week, the world bore witness as the jurors entered a judgment of guilty on all counts in the murder of George Floyd. Say his name, George Floyd. So here we are in an amazing week, which last fall we would have never known the space we were entering this week in this scheduled night. But we're here to gather as one, as a community, to participate in this 8th annual forum with our fellow community members. Our theme this year is being a fair witness of pain to hold a space for healing. So to start us off, it is my pleasure to welcome and introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Asia King, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dr. King. Dr. King is a counseling psychologist and licensed professional clinical counselor with over 20 years of mental health experience. Dr. King believes that missions and visions are actualized through the ability to step outside your comfort zone to create new paths to success. Through this mindset, Brave Defiance Consulting was born to lead community initiatives with transformative coaching, one-on-one training, and leadership development. She has provided multicultural, solution-focused services to organizations such as Metro Mental Health Crisis Team, Lutheran Social Services, and medical schools throughout the country. Topics of interest have included power and privilege within supervision, understanding and supporting mental health within the workplace, workplace bullying and power dynamics, and optimizing identity to build future leaders. Dr. King earned her bachelor's degree from the University of Alabama at Birmingham and her master's degree in community counseling from Argosy University in Atlanta, Georgia. Dr. King also holds a doctoral degree in education with a concentration in counseling psychology through Argosy University in Washington, D.C. Dr. King's most notable current role is serving as the chairperson for the Human Rights Commission right here in Brooklyn Park. Dr. King is a published children's author of Finding My Cool, which was inspired by her son and addresses mindfulness in children. She is currently penning her second book, The Art of Sitting, which reflects on the art of self-reflection. In her free time, she enjoys traveling, exploring the city, and spending time with her sons, Chris and Austin. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Asia King.
Right. I dare to dream the impossible dream due to my incurable optimism and belief that humankind has an innate ability to make positive changes. Nathaniel Jackson. When my grandfather wrote those words, he really and sincerely believed that we all were capable of helping each other and really curing each other of the disgusting acts that we have perpetrated against ourselves and society over decades and centuries. He honestly believed that it was in us. We were born with it. We are capable of healing ourselves. If my grandfather could believe that, I wanted to believe it too. But unfortunately, within our society and within our country, we have gotten to a point where we are no longer in agreement that we are the healers, not only for ourselves, but for each other. How did we get to that point? When did we stop believing? When did we stop holding each other's pain? In Robert Heinlein's book, Stranger in a Strange Land, the author was able to describe a fair witness. Fair witnesses within Heinlein's novel, their only job was to strictly describe what they saw at that moment. If you notice, this young lady is looking at a house on a hill. In Heinlein's story, the character named Anne was asked a simple question. What do you see? What do you see about that house? Anne's response to him was, it appears to be painted white on this side. Now take notice, Anne did not describe what was in the house. She didn't describe who built the house. Her only response was, what was on this side? What was she able to witness? Fair witnesses within Heinlein's book were impartial. They gave impartial assessments. They only spoke directly to their experiences. They were without judgment and they were without biases. Simple enough, huh? But I ask you, and I implore you tonight to really explore within yourselves, When have you been a fair witness? When have you been a part or around or surrounded within a situation? And more particularly, when were you surrounded in situations that required you to look at race? And you looked at that situation without bias, without assessment, or without judgment. The act of fair witnessing is several things. What do you see here? In this moment, what are you witnessing? Sure, you can say, it's a woman who's in grief, who's in pain. But as a fair witness, you don't want to think any further about what may have caused this pain, where this situation may have come from. You are simply experiencing this moment for exactly what it is. This is a woman, this is a Black woman in pain who is hurting. Her head is tilted to the skies. You don't know what she's thinking. And you may not have known what has happened. But being a witness is experiencing what is right in front of you. How about now? When we're thinking about race relations, when we're thinking about any ism, sexism, racism, ageism, we have biases. And biases are when we lean towards our preferred thought. Are biases bad? Absolutely not. But too many times, our biases have kept us from experiencing each other and recognizing the stories of each other. So how do you hold your biases? Can you hold your biases? In moments of pain, we tend to run away from the emotions. Being a fair witness is about not only seeing and stating what you are experiencing, it's also about holding your biases, but it's also about recognizing and honoring your senses. What are you feeling? What do you see? What do you taste? What do you hear? What can you feel? Our emotions can override us and they can feel overwhelming. But if we are to ever be partial, be impartial, and be able to hold each other accountable, we cannot run from our emotions. We cannot run from our feelings, and we cannot run from the feelings of others. We have to sit in it. And we have to know what pain, joy, love, hurt, hate feels and looks like. This is what makes us courageous. But most importantly, this is what helps shifts our thought. It's not enough to be in the moment. It's not enough to hold your biases. It's not enough to hold your senses. After you go through all of these obstacles, it is now time to shift the way you are looking at the situation. And not for other people, but for ourselves. And start asking the questions. Where do I show up as helpful or hurtful? In this moment, am I able to understand, or do I need more community and communication to get a better feeling for where I can be the most effective? Fair witnessing is not a voyeuristic sport. It is not the opportunity to witness the pain of other people just so you can say, I was there. Too many times through history, as we see in this picture, and this picture is from Duluth, Minnesota, where not only were there not any fair witnesses, but it was a sport to kill, maim, torture, separate, divide, conquer, and kill Black and brown bodies. So when we talk about fair witnessing, it is not to come and just witness the pain of other people. It is not that. It's also not the opportunity to create judgment. And this is a very big part. Don't jump to conclusions. There may be a perfectly good explanation as to what you just saw. And I love that quote, because what we see a lot of times is the truth. Being a fair witness creates an opportunity to remove barriers and create connectedness within our existence and within each other. Without it, we basically say, I'm not a part of that situation. This is an individual situation that only belongs to you and not me. But as human beings, it's not just your issue, it's my issue, because healing belongs to all of us. Fair is also not always equal. As it states here, fair isn't everybody getting the same thing. Fair is everybody getting what they need in order to be successful. And what does that mean? It means that you provide opportunities. I don't need you to give me the job, but I do need you to create and remove any barriers that might prevent me from having the job. And being a fair witness means that when you see something that creates those barriers, when you see something that makes it unfair, when you see something that is not right, you say something. When we take the stance that the issues do not belong to us, that's not enough. We are also complicit in the harm of other people when we do not take action. And last but not least, fair witnessing is not passive aggressive. It's not saying, well, we've already been over the situation, I'm not doing it again. Pain does not have an expiration date. Trauma does not have an expiration date. If any of you are familiar with what trauma does, it actually stores itself within your body. The body takes count. There's a book that you can look that up. But the body keeps score. The body keeps score. And when we're thinking about generational trauma within Black and brown families and generations of communities, so many times the passive aggressive conversation has been, that was so long ago, why are you talking about it now? Systematic racism never went away. It just got craftier in the way it was executed. So when you are being a fair witness, when you are being an ally, it is imperative that you are making sure that you are not brushing aside the concerns of the people who are telling you they have experienced decades, centuries of abuse. If any of you have ever experienced abuse or ever experienced any type of discrimination, the worst thing somebody can tell you is to get over it. So as a fair witness, it is our job to make sure that we are sitting in this moment with each other. Fair witness is also bear witnessing. So we're witnessing through our eyes, But bearing means that we're practicing a certain level of empathy. We are feeling the pain. We are understanding the pain. We're riding the roller coaster of emotions with other people. When you can witness, when you can hold pain, then that creates the opportunity for courage and healing. It's not easy. It's not easy to be told over and over again, your people tortured my people. So many times I have white folks tell me, Asia, you know, I didn't do that. I don't own any slaves. I never, I. It's not just about you. It's about what came before you to help benefit you. What did you benefit off of your forefathers, your grandfather, your grandmother? Hear that story and then hear our story and hold that. Hold that. Through our ability to have fair witnessing and bear witnessing, we are able to conquer this through a brave defiance to conquer truth. It is definitely going to take courage, bravery, standing up against other people's morals, and being defiant, pushing against the limits. Rules were created. They can be mended and broken and shifted. But that has to happen when you realize that what has been created is not working for everybody. And how many times do we do it? We do it over and over and over until we get it right. There are no limitations to making sure that the equality, the peace, and the opportunity for everyone to have a fair existence to occur. There's no time limit. So today, I'm so honored and so happy to have everybody here. I want you to break out into your groups. Not quite yet. Brian will speak to us a little bit more. But when you're going into your groups, I want you to think about you, yourself, and where have you played roles in being fair, being just, and practicing courage to change the narrative of creating a world that we all want to live in. Think about yourselves. Be courageous enough to share this information with each other. Be courageous enough to be vulnerable. Because without vulnerability, what else do you have? Without the opportunity to share ideas and swap stories and share our goals and what we would like to see happen, what is the point? With that, I will hand it over to Brian to get us grounded or get us acquainted on what is next.
So thank you, Dr. King. You've given us much to ponder, and as we start to move into our small groups, we have some general guidelines and agreements as we move into our circles or squares, as is the case on virtual meetings right now. But these conversations are always by invitation. You've been invited to be in a group. While you're in your group, your facilitator will call on folks and we'll pass our conversations to each other when we finish our own thoughts. We ask that you stay engaged. I don't think that's going to be hard to do. I'm super engaged right now. We ask that you speak your truth. When someone else is speaking, we ask that you listen deeply as they share their truth. We expect that we're going to experience discomfort. Dr. King touched upon a couple of these next ones. Suspend judgment during these conversations. We're not here to do any fixing. We're here to listen deeply. Maintain confidentiality. What is shared in your group stays in your group. And we can expect and accept non-closure. We're not going to get it all solved tonight in our couple of hours together. So as Jesus just mentioned in the comment box, we heard some very insightful and thoughtful things in this last 15 minutes. We're excited to continue the conversation. And Dr. King, is it accurate that you're going to take us through a moment of mindfulness before we jump into our groups? So I'll pass it back to Dr. King.
Absolutely. So when we come into these spaces to have these conversations, you know, I always feel like it is very disrespectful when we don't give it our undivided attention. So I'm going to ask everybody at this moment, get grounded. Let's get grounded. Okay. And what does grounding mean? Grounding means that right now we are going to take time to remove any and every distraction. What does that mean? It means get settled, get comfortable, because we have at least 45 minutes to 50 minutes worth of conversation to have, right? Turn off your TV, turn off your emails. Do not check your Facebook, Instagram, any social media. Okay? Really tune in to this process. Okay? If you find that you are distracted, just gently bring your attention back to the group. Bring your attention back to the conversation. Part of grounding also means getting settled in our minds. So I want to take at least 1 minute of silence. 1 minute of silence. And breathe. Okay. Reminder, being a fair witness is a moment to observe without opinion, judgment, or bias. If you once again are finding yourself doing this during the process, that's okay. We have trained ourselves to do this. But the whole point of this conversation tonight is to start to shift our thought processes and the way we start to feel and experience each other. Just bring your attention back to the conversation and the questions at hand. Okay. And I also want you to ask yourself, if you find yourself wondering, why is my thought here? How did I get here in this thought? Be mindful of what you say, and then come back to the group. Make sure that you're engaged. Make sure that you share. And just to kind of give a prompt, your first question will be about experiencing your senses. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you're feeling. Okay, your senses. When you get in the room with your moderators, I want you to really just take notice of where your senses are at that moment. Okay. All right. Happy discussion. You might see me in some of your groups. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope everybody was able to have great discussion. I hope that you all were able to get some insight as to, what does it mean to be a fair witness? And I'm interested, I'll be asking a few people on their insight and their views and ideas of what did they gather from their group. Okay. So right now we have our word cloud coming together, and each one of you were able to share your words and opinions. And so all of this is coming in as we speak. And so, what does being a fair witness mean to you? So, we've got some words where it says accountability, empathy, reconciliation, listening, appreciation, speaking up. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Compassion, family, intent. I love it. I love it. So we're going to jump into the last part of this. I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to get back into the presentation. All right. So bear with me as I get situated. Here we are. All right. So our reflective questions. What were you experiencing through your senses? The reason why I added this question was, it is so important that as a fair witness, we are grounded in our emotions. Okay. When we think about George Floyd, and I want to really highlight that example because those people that recorded his murder were fair witnesses. Now imagine you're on the corner, you're on the curb, and you pull out your phone and you start recording. What do you think your body is going through at this moment? You're going through fear. You're going through being scared. You're going through some excitement of just even the chaotic situation is happening around you. You're going through concern. So all of your senses are going off. You're hearing, you're smelling, you're tasting, you're touching. All of your senses are going off at this moment while watching the murder of a man on the sidewalk. So when we talk about experience our senses, there is that internal stimuli and external stimuli that we are battling against. And so when we're battling against those things, you have to get grounded. You have to be able to say at this moment, right now I'm scared. Right now I'm overwhelmed. Right now I'm shaking. Right now it's hard for me to see because there's so much going on. Because being a fair witness means that you have to get grounded in what you're seeing. And the battle between the internal stimuli and the external stimuli can be overwhelming at times. So that's why it is so important for us to get grounded in our emotions so that we can be impartial. Now, what does it mean? What does being a fair witness mean to you? Where have you practiced this? Why is it hard to observe without judgment? So what does being a fair witness mean to you? Anybody want to quickly chime in on what they said on what being a fair witness means to them?
Yeah, I can go.
Yeah.
Just a quick introduction. My name is Maria Medell. I am a freshman at North Hennepin Community College. I major in marketing. And what I talked about in my group regarding being a fair witness is it means that you don't just watch, it means that you experience it, and it means that you're in the moment, just like you said, Dr. King. And yeah, and just being a part of it, like asking people like what does this feel like for you, and just you know experience it like this is like extremely personal to you, you know what I mean? And you're not just a witness, you're not just someone who's on the sideline. And I haven't really been a fair witness, I'll be honest with you, throughout this whole thing. I feel like I've just been watching. I live in a part of Brooklyn Park where it's, you know, it's not, I guess it's more white than it is, you know, people of color. And so I've lived around people um that are white, and so I've kind of just been hardwired to watch instead of actually doing something. um and it's kind of hard to observe without judgment, just because like we all have, you know, implicit biases and everything like that. And so it's just been hard. But now that everything going on with George Floyd and Dante Wright, um just those being so close to home, I've been more committed in trying to be a fair witness. So that's what being a fair witness means to me.
There you go. Beautiful. Being a fair witness should mean to us about holding integrity. It's about being honest. It's about being honest in what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, what we're noticing. And even if you haven't had an opportunity to do it, anytime we bring something to our consciousness and our awareness, we are now responsible for carrying that thing out. So why is it hard to do it without judgment? That's an easy answer. We've been taught to separate who gets protection. Because when we're talking about fair witnessing, we're saying that we're taking the responsibility to have care and concern for every person that walks this earth. But with our biases, we then separate it into categories to say good deserves righteousness and protection, and bad deserves what they get. When you think about the testimonies, and when you think about, you know, after George Floyd was murdered, I want you to remember what everybody was trying to do at that moment. You didn't hear too many people really connecting with a man dying slowly on the sidewalk with a person's knee in his neck. You heard about his criminal background. You heard about his drug use. You heard about everything that polished him as undesirable. Because in those messages, what we say is, if you do wrong in this world, you don't deserve protection. If you are not a desirable person, if you are less than, if you don't have the money, if you don't have the income, if you don't have the status, you get what you get. But when you are a fair witness, you don't care if they're young, they're old, addicted, not addicted, in prison, free, housed, homeless. Everybody deserves your protection and your attention. As a therapist, I don't get to decide who I help. I have helped everybody between the range of sex offenders, to murderers, to Aryan Nation believers, to Christians, to saints. And every last person I've ever come across experienced the opportunity of fair witnessing, of being understood, what they were asking for and what they needed to feel like they were a part of community. So yeah, it's hard. It is definitely hard, but is it necessary? Yes. And why? Why is this necessary? So our next question is, what are you willing to change and give up to be a fair witness? Anybody want to share briefly just what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give up to protect other people outside of yourself?
I want to come in. My name is Hadijatu. I'm a student at North Hennepin and I'm a doula. I want to address, all our attention is on the street, but these things don't happen only in the streets. It happens in the healthcare system. I do labor support. They will judge you because of your color. Someone will come and scream, they will show empathy. You come and scream, they judge you. And when judging you, the first thing they question, where is the baby father? And which is wrong. We know how labor is painful. I am a doula. I serve everyone. I don't judge no one with your color or your culture. I come there to celebrate with you, to show you that your body can do this. It's painful, but your body is meant for this, and you can do it. It's time for celebration, and we have to celebrate the new life you're bringing into this world instead of judging you. We should stop the judgment. If we continue judging each other, we will not go nowhere. We will just keep going backward instead of forward. This is only not happening only on our streets. It's happening in the healthcare system. We have to address it all, not only the streets. Our women are dying, giving birth because they're judging them.
Thank you. Thank you. Whether it is the streets, whether it is the healthcare system, whether it is our schools, whether it is in our communities, when we feel that the issues of others don't belong to us, that's when we're in trouble. Being what we have to be willing to change and give up is really dying to ourselves. Caring for others is a selfless act. You don't get rewards, you don't get acknowledgement, you don't get the prize. You don't get the Nobel Peace Prize. What you do get is by helping the next person next to you, you help them to make sure that they are able to take the next steps to also be successful, because we are tied in this together. It is because of you that I succeed. It is because of you that I do well. So giving up and willing to change is not a huge effort, but for some of us, it feels like we're giving ourselves up. But it's so important that if we're going to be a fair witness, that we are acknowledging the suffering of other people and sitting in that moment and holding that pain with each other. Because without it, there is no healing. Thank you so much. How does being a fair witness create healing for others, yourself? And how might it create barriers? So I'll answer these last two, make sure that we're staying with time. Being a fair witness creates healing for others because we have to remember there are some people who are telling their truths, but because they don't have a voice, their truth is not acknowledged. So many times you have maybe told your story and somebody doubted you and somebody questioned you. And it wasn't until your friend, your boss, or the person who had the title came next to you to verify it's true. Being a fair witness is about being a voice for the voiceless, creating spaces where normally they would not be able to go, and creating opportunities and dreams that did not seem possible. And when we do that for ourselves and when we do that for other people, we're creating a sense of community. And I know all of these words may seem simple enough, but it really is simple. We make it difficult because we want to hold to our stances. We want to hold to our principles. We want to hold to what we think is right. But part of being a fair witness is about asking, what am I unable to see? What am I not seeing here? What agenda do I have in trying to help in this situation? Remember before I talked about, being a fair witness and seeing and talking for people and helping people is not a voyeuristic act. It is not something that you do because you want accolades and acknowledgement. Check your agenda. Why are you here? Why did you all come to this forum When we really start to understand ourselves and we really start to understand what are we trying to gain out of this? What kind of community are we trying to create? How are we holding ourselves responsible for uplifting the next person? That's how we get to our healing spots. Now, how does this create barriers? Being a fair witness is great, but it can also create barriers because sometimes we're speaking up for people that don't want us to speak up for them. We're inserting ourselves into spaces where you may not be needed. So in being a fair witness, start to ask the questions of other people. Where do you want me? Where do you want me to be? How do you want me to be of service? You may be an expert, but you're not the expert in the lives of other people. As a therapist, I recognize, yeah, I've done 20 years of mental health experience, but I'm not the expert of that mother who came in with her kids. I'm not the expert of that man who just came out of prison. We're not experts. We are here to be servants to other people and to gently guide where they best see fit on how to be okay. Last but not least, what are our next practical steps to hold space for healing? And more specifically, healing for the underrepresented. What are our next steps? So everybody came to the forum tonight. Everybody was able to share and be in group and be in community. That's great. That's awesome. Now what? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to give up? Who are you willing to distance yourself from? Who are you going to call? If you own a company or an organization, what policies are you willing to change? If you work in the school system, how are you making sure that you are protecting Black and brown bodies who are suspended and scrutinized and demonized on a regular basis while gaining their education? If you are part of government, law enforcement, if you hold any title, what are you willing to do today, tomorrow, the next day? Because this is all good in theory, but theory means nothing if there's no action plan and no purpose behind it. Far too often, we will have these conversations, and this is where it stops. Who's your accountability partner? Are you interested in doing anything different today? I want to hear, we have time for maybe one person. When it comes to an action plan, a practical steps for what are you willing to change? What are you willing to give up to be a fair witness, not for yourself, but other people, and more specifically, underrepresented people? Somebody share with me, what personal action are you going to take?
Right now, I'm in a space where I am being judged for something that I feel is unfair. I feel like I'm being asked to abide with what I'm being asked to do, and I don't think that's fair. And so I'm in a position right now at this very moment of whether I just create the space and opportunity for us to be for this to be shared out, and for an opportunity for it not happening to anybody behind me, or do I submit for my existence, the here and the now? That's real. And I don't know what to do because I feel like it's, I'm also starving. That's real.
Tell me more, Jesus. Tell me more.
I feel the system is not recognizing my brilliance. And I think a system is not witnessing me fairly. And I don't know whether to abide by what needs to happen in order for me to continue to eat, or whether I make it a moment so that I can point out where a flaw might be that could capture somebody else down the line.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. And that is real, raw emotion. That is real and it's raw.
Dr. King,
Yes, yes,
Dr. King,
yes.
I didn't get that gentleman's name, and I'm going to pose something that I am in a position to talk with that gentleman if he can take the risk of trust and perhaps help based on my experience in the area he may be talking about or may need to talk about, or direct him to where he may need to go to talk to somebody.
And can I get you, and I thank you and I honor you for that. And in this moment, can I get you to practice fair witnessing in what you just experienced with Jesus?
I experienced the truth. And in my life, I've dealt with that kind of truth many times in my business life and career in banking. And it sounded like he had some things that might be in my purview from my life experience and career experience. And I'm familiar with resources, federal, state, charitable, personal help, counseling, several areas may be able to help him.
And I thank you for that. I also want to make sure that we hold to the moment of observing what we just witnessed. We observed Jesus express his hurt, his frustration, his anger. And in this moment, we saw him weep. That's fair witnessing. We didn't observe on what's on the inside. We didn't observe what's on the side of him. We simply observed a man that expressed his frustration, hurt, and anger. And he cried. And we sit with that. Because part of being a fair witness means that there's some things we can't fix. And also being a fair witness means that we have to ask, where do you want me? I'm here. Where do you want me?
That's good. That's good.
So I want us to close out by remembering when you are Anne, or whatever your name is and whoever you are, and you're looking at that house on top of the hill, you're looking at that woman and that man in distress. You're looking at that cop putting his knee in the neck. You're looking at mothers and fathers and daughters and sons and aunts and uncles cry. Ask yourself, sit in that moment. What am I seeing? What am I experiencing? Feel that pain. Hold that pain. People of color don't need a savior. People of color need you to just witness what has been expressed. You don't know what's on the back. You don't know what's on the side, but you do know what's in front of you. Hold to that. have your integrity, be willing to protect, and most importantly, make it your mission to protect and hold and honor everyone you ever come across. And after today, you go back and you look at your principles and your practices wherever you are and make sure they align with this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. King.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, I appreciate everyone being here. I think Josie put on the chat room, we would love for you to take the time to fill out an evaluation. This is our 8th annual Forum on Race. We will have a 9th annual, and we always want to make it better than the last one, right? So please take the time to fill out an eval. We really would appreciate that. I think Maya or someone on our chat also let you know that we recorded Dr. King's presentation around being a fair witness. We're saving the word clouds, and we will be emailing or reaching out to participants to give a summary of tonight, because we appreciate you taking the time being here. So I want to end with 3 thank yous and gratitude. Number 1, thank you to all of our sponsors and planning committee. We appreciate that you put this together for us tonight, so thank you. Thank you to all of our participants and our facilitators for speaking your truth and creating a space where we could be in community with one another, so thank you. And lastly, thank you to Dr. King for challenging, teaching, inspiring, and uplifting me and all of us in this room. So thank you all for being here tonight. Take care.
Thank you.